Hey everyone, and welcome back to Reset Now.
Great to be here.
You know the drill. We take some source material, explore it, and try to pull out the key insights for you.
Yeah, getting right to the heart of it.
So you get the core ideas without needing to sift through everything yourself.
Exactly. And today we're focusing on something really fundamental, the nature of our thoughts.
Right, and what our source material calls the deluded mind.
Sounds a bit intense, maybe.
It can, but we'll unpack it. The source we're drawing from is a collection of excerpts.
And it's really important, like you said, host speaker, this isn't us telling you what's true or what to believe.
Definitely not. Think of it more as an invitation. We want you, as you listen, to just kind of observe your own mind, see what resonates.
Right. The text itself suggests something interesting. That maybe by reducing some of the excessive stuff going on in our heads.
The clutter. Yeah, the mental clutter. By reducing that, we might actually see things a bit more clearly. See a kind of truth that gets hidden by all the chatter.
Okay, so let's get into this concept then. The deluded mind. How does the source describe it?
Well, it talks about it as the state where we often, without realizing it, get completely caught up.
Caught up in what?
In our thoughts, motions, feelings, even specific memories. And the key mistake, according to the text, is forgetting that the mind isn't those things.
Oh, okay. So it's like confusing the weather with the sky itself.
That's a great analogy. The source contrasts consciously thinking, okay, I am thinking this thought, with the much more common feeling of the mind just being carried away.
It's along.
Exactly, swept along by the thoughts. It compares it to being in a dream and totally believing the dream is real while you're in it.
That makes sense. And wow, to give some scale to this, the source points to estimates, I think, from neuroscience, that we can have something like up to 60,000 thoughts a day.
60,000, it's a staggering number.
It really is. And the point isn't just the volume, right? It's that most of them are probably just stories, mental narratives.
Yeah, often completely unrelated to what's actually happening right here, right now. Just noise, a lot of it.
So it makes you wonder, doesn't it, how much of our energy, our stress, comes from getting lost in these mental movies.
Well, and that links straight into another point the source brings up, research about worry.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It suggests something like 85% of the things we actively worry about. They just never happen.
85%. That's huge.
It is. So think about that. Most of our anxiety could be about stuff that exists only in our heads. We're living in these elaborate worst case scenario films that never actually play out.
It really puts it in perspective.
It does. And, contrast that feeling with moments of just pure observation.
Like watching a sunset you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Or just listening to rain or looking at a tree. In those moments, what happens to the thoughts?
They often just stop or fade way into the background.
Right. And neuroscience actually backs this up.
Yeah.
It shows that brain activity in the areas linked to self-referential thinking about, it quiets right down during those moments.
Okay, so if we're constantly getting pulled into these mental stories, how do we even start to notice it's happening? Is there a way to catch ourselves?
The source offers a surprisingly simple technique. Just labeling the thought.
Labeling it how?
Just mentally noting, this is just thinking. Or even just thinking.
That's it.
Apparently, yeah. There's a research mention suggesting that this simple act can actually reduce the activation in the amygdala.
The brain's sort of fear or stress center?
Exactly. Reduce it by up to 50%, potentially.
Wow. Just by naming it thinking.
Yeah. The analogy they use is like stepping out of a really intense movie playing in a theater.
I like that. Suddenly you see it's just a movie, not reality.
Precisely. You create a bit of distance. You recognize it as just a mental event passing through, not something that is you or demands a huge emotional reaction right now.
And this sounds a lot like mindfulness, doesn't it?
It absolutely connects. The source brings up mindfulness research too, showing around a 40% reduction in stress symptoms for people who practice it.
And mindfulness is basically just paying attention to the present.
Paying attention to the present moment, yeah. But crucially, without judging what you notice. And the key insight here isn't about stopping thoughts or changing them.
What is it then?
It's about changing your relationship to them, how you view them. Seeing them as passing events, not you.
Okay, I see. So this perspective, according to the text, helps explain where suffering comes from.
Yes, it argues that real suffering doesn't usually come from the past events themselves. Because, they're over. they're gone.
Right.
The suffering comes from how we cling to the stories about those past events. We keep replaying them, identifying with them, and mistaking that old story for who we are now.
That's a powerful distinction.
It is. And it leads to this invitation in the text.
For the listener.
For you, listening right now, it encourages you to try and listen to this, maybe just for a moment, with a mind that isn't trying so hard to believe everything, or analyze it, or even remember it all perfectly.
Yes, listen and observe.
Yeah. Just listen and notice your own mind as you do.
So maybe ask yourself, have you ever been quiet, really quiet inside, long enough to actually hear that constant stream of thoughts?
Can you notice them now, even as we're talking? What's going through your mind?
And it is persistent, isn't it? That internal voice, the text describes it, whether it's judging something or worrying or replaying the past.
Good stuff, bad stuff, future stuff.
Yeah, it just keeps going, like a radio playing in an empty room sometimes. A sound with no real listener, just continuing.
And the text says, we get swept away. That's the term it uses. We identify with that voice, we cling to it.
And we forget something crucial.
We forget it's just a natural phenomenon of the mind. Like breathing, it's happening, but it isn't the entirety of who you are. It's not your core self. We mistake the stream for the whole river, maybe?
Okay, so boiling it down. Thoughts and emotions happen, but they aren't fundamentally you.
Correct. But the deluded mind, as the source frames it, absolutely believes they are you, that they belong to you, define you.
And this deluded state means the mind isn't really present.
Not in the current reality, no. It's described as constantly chasing things, chasing sensory experiences, sights, sounds, tastes, smells.
And not just experiencing them, but
Judging them instantly. Wanting this, not wanting that. Following desires, pushing away unpleasantness, constantly reacting based on past conditioning or future fears.
And this is where the suffering comes in.
That's the root according to this text. The mind just doesn't realize it's lost in its own creations, lost in these mental fabrications, these stories that aren't tangible, aren't real in the present moment.
So again, it's not the event itself.
No, it's the clinging. It's assigning meaning. The examples given are really helpful. You don't suffer just because someone left.
You suffer because of the thought.
The thought, they shouldn't have treated me like that. Or the thought, this means I'm unlovable. It's the story you tell yourself about the event.
Or the missed job opportunity. It's not the missing it, but the I should have gotten that. I failed.
Exactly. That's the mind creating a self through narrative, the text says, and then getting tangled up in its own mental fabrication, believing the story is reality.
So what's the alternative suggested if we notice this happening?
The suggestion is surprisingly simple, though maybe not easy. It's to practice just stopping.
Stopping what? Thinking.
Not necessarily stopping thinking, but stopping the engagement with it. Stopping the need to explain everything, to understand it all, to justify, to analyze constantly.
And instead,
Just seeing the process itself, watching how a thought pops up, how it links to another thought to create a little story, how that story triggers an emotion, and how I instinctively want to grab onto it, cling to it, build an identity around it.
seeing the mechanism without getting caught in the gears.
Beautifully put, yeah. Seeing how this whole seemingly solid reality is constructed moment by moment through this clinging.
Okay, so bringing this part to a close then. The argument is that suffering doesn't really come from out there, the world.
Not primarily. It comes from the mind getting lost in things that aren't actually real now. Things that are over, or things that haven't happened yet. Lost in imagination, essentially.
Wow, that's a lot to take in.
It is.
Yeah.
And again, the invitation isn't to just blindly believe this. It's to observe. See for yourself if this matches your experience. Watch your own mind.
The text also mentions this feeling, a sense of lightness. That can come in moments when the thinking mind quiets down.
Yes, it contrasts that lightness with the sort of heaviness or burden we feel when we're constantly being swept away by thoughts and emotions.
And I think most people, have probably tasted that lightness, right? Even for a split second, when the internal commentary just drops.
Absolutely. Those moments of flow or peace or just simple presence, it's a very distinct feeling. Less weight.
Less burden.
Yeah. And really, that's the core message here, the ultimate takeaway from looking at this idea of the deluded mind.
Which is?
That a mind that isn't deluded in this way, a mind that sees thoughts and emotions for what they are, natural occurrences passing through awareness, not owned by a fixed self.
That mind is
free.
a powerful idea to reflect on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the nature of thought here on Reset Now.
See you again next time.